Hey, you just made my channel 10 times better by showing up. First timer? Don't be shy. Hit subscribe and share the good vibes with someone close to you. Let me know where you're watching from. I love reading your comments. Onward. When my wife told me she had a team-building dinner to attend, I simply smiled and nodded, saying nothing in return. What she didn't know was that all of her texts were being mirrored straight to my cloud storage. Perks of working in IT, especially when the cheating spouse forgets who configured her phone in the first place. What happened next didn't just bring my marriage to a close, it also blew the lid off a scandal that would rock an entire executive leadership team. Hi everyone, I'm 37, and I've been holding on to this story for a while. It's time to let it out. Looking back now, the signs were there all along. My name's Michael Thompson, and this is the account of how I discovered that even the person you love most can become a complete stranger. If only I'd paid closer attention to the hints, like her suddenly changing her phone passcode, those endless late nights, at work, and all those suspicious messages, I might have uncovered the truth sooner. It all started on a Wednesday night in Phoenix. Sarah, my wife of 5 years, age 33, was getting ready for what she claimed was a company dinner for team bonding at her marketing firm. I watched from the couch as she moved around in a sleek black dress I'd never seen before. "Oh, this old thing? Picked it up on clearance last week?" she tossed out casually when I asked about it, though the Nordstrom price tag still dangling from the hem told a different story. "The whole office is meeting at this fancy new spot downtown. You know how Karen loves to show off for clients," she added. She was wearing more makeup than I'd ever seen her put on for anything work-related. Max, our golden retriever, lay quietly at my feet, his eyes tracking her movements with a kind of tense awareness. I couldn't shake the feeling he sensed something too. Lately things had felt off. Sarah was constantly working late, obsessively on her phone, and locking apps that had always been left open before. "Don't wait up," she said as she applied one last coat of lipstick. "These things usually go late and we might grab drinks afterward." I nodded like everything was normal, even as a tight, uneasy feeling twisted in my stomach. Sarah and I had always been known as that couple, the ones who communicated, who made people believe in love. We gave relationship advice, hosted parties, finished each other's thoughts. Just weeks ago, we'd been mapping out a dream trip to Greece. "Want me to drive you there?" I asked, already knowing what she'd say. No need," she replied smoothly. "I'm taking an Uber both ways. Safer if we're drinking." "All right, have fun," I told her, forcing a smile. "Text me when you're on your way back." She barely looked at me as she picked up her keys. "Wait, didn't she just say she was using Uber?" "Of course. Love you." She tossed over her shoulder just before the door clicked shut behind her. I sat there staring blankly at the wall. That's when my phone lit up. It was a message from Tom, 34 years old, my best friend and someone who worked with Sarah. "Bro, what dinner? Everyone left ages ago. Karen's out of town. She's in Chicago at a conference." My stomach dropped. Then another message followed. "Also, Sarah called in sick today. Said she had a migraine. You okay, man?" Just as I finished reading, I heard her car engine roar to life in the driveway. So much for that Uber ride. From the window, I watched her check her reflection in the mirror one last time before reversing down the driveway. My hands were shaking, but my mind was already racing. I replied, "Keep this between us. I need everything you can find." What happened next didn't just pull the rug out from under me. It was the spark that lit the fuse on something much bigger. This isn't just some story about a cheating wife caught in the act. It's about how I turned the tables, exacted justice, and walked away stronger. So buckle up, Reddit. Things are about to get wild. Thanks to everyone who commented on my last post, the support has been incredible. A few of you asked for more details, so here's what came next. After reading Tom's texts, I knew I couldn't let my emotions lead. I needed evidence. My heart was pounding, but my thoughts were razor sharp. Step 1. Check our phone plan. Sarah had always been careless with her digital footprints. One of the few benefits of being married to a tech-savvy systems analyst, I guess. The call logs told quite a story. One number kept popping up, always around lunchtime or late at night. I ran a reverse lookup. The name attached? James Anderson. Vice president of marketing at a competing agency. Interesting. Sarah had never once mentioned him. I fired off a quick text to Tom. Ever hear of a James Anderson? Within seconds, the typing bubbles appeared. Just a few weeks earlier, he'd come in for an interview at our firm. Polished, charismatic, dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Sarah was assigned to give him the office tour. I could only imagine just how detailed that walkthrough had been. After that memory crossed my mind, I logged into the bank account we shared. There they were, transactions from upscale restaurants I'd never even heard of, and a charge from a trendy hotel lounge downtown. Then, the most recent charge hit like a gut punch, a retainer paid to a divorce attorney. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just fooling around. She was preparing her exit. But the worst discovery? That came from the cloud. Sarah never really grasped how backups worked. Deleting something on her phone didn't remove it from the synced storage. And just like that, I had access. Message after message between her and James. Already thinking about you. Last night was incredible. Dying to taste you again. Every text felt like another knife to the ribs. Still, I kept reading. They'd been carrying on for 3 months. Every so-called late-night finishing projects, she was with him. Those ladies' nights she always seemed so giddy about, just a cover for their secret meetings. She even sent him photos, private ones, taken in our bedroom, on our bed. I needed air. I clipped Max's leash on and headed into the cool night. The Arizona sky was clear, stars glimmering overhead like they knew the punchline before I did. As we made our way around the block, my phone buzzed. Sarah had texted, "Running late at work, don't wait up." I reopened the banking app. Another new charge, $75, again at the Skyline Hotel bar. I knew that place well. It was practically a sanctuary for discreet affairs in the city. Just then my phone rang. It was Tom. "Mike, man, you've got to see this," he said. "Sarah just posted something on her private story. Must have forgotten I still follow her. She's at Skyline, and she's definitely not alone." "Send it," I said flatly. The photo arrived. Sarah seated at a table lit by soft candlelight, her fingers intertwined with someone else's hand. The caption? "Perfect evening." That's when I knew. If Sarah wanted to go low, fine. But I'd beat her at her own game, with precision and planning. First move, I transferred half of our shared savings into a separate account under my name. Completely within legal bounds, we were still legally married. Second move, I called Lisa, my cousin. She's a family lawyer who specializes in exactly this kind of mess. "Hey, remember how you said you owed me for rescuing your crashed hard drive?" I asked. "Well, it's time to collect." "What's going on?" she asked. "I need to know every legal tactic available to make sure an unfaithful spouse faces the consequences, and I want to be fully prepared for court, documents, evidence, everything." Lisa chuckled. "You've come to the right place, sweetheart. Give me an hour. I'll get everything ready." I hung up and glanced down at Max, who wagged his tail like he was in on the plan. "Looks like Sarah's in for a surprise, huh, boy?" But I wasn't going to act impulsively. This wasn't about revenge for its own sake. It was about playing the long game, about building power. And I was done playing defense. Update. I can't thank you all enough. Your advice, support, and encouragement have been invaluable. Here's what happened next. True to form, Lisa came through like a legal wrecking ball. We met up at a low-key cafe well outside my usual spots. No need for gossip or familiar faces. "All right, cousin," she said, unfolding a hefty packet of paperwork onto the table. "You're actually in a much better spot than most guys who go through this," Lisa remarked. "Joint finances, shared property, and a digital footprint. We've got more than enough to bring her down hard. But I wasn't ready to go scorched earth, at least not immediately. I want to play this smart," I said. "No need to light the match before we've even found the fuse." Sarah still believed I was clueless. The naive husband, oblivious to the betrayal playing out right in front of him. Lisa squinted slightly. "You're planning something, aren't you?" I gave her a small, knowing smile. Let's just say the storyline's about to change. The first step? I needed to get a handle on the circles James Anderson moved in. A quick look through LinkedIn turned up a promising lead. Alex, an old college buddy of mine who now worked for a tech firm downtown. Sounded like the perfect excuse to grab a drink and reconnect. I casually dropped James Anderson's name while we were having beers. Alex nearly choked on his IPA. "That clown?" he said, laughing. "Total creep. Guy's infamous for chasing married women at every industry event. Real snake." "Tell me more," I said, keeping my face unreadable. "Word is he's hanging on by a thread at work. There's an internal investigation going on. Fudge numbers, sketchy expenses, the works. Honestly, I'd be shocked if he lasts the month." Bingo. Sarah had no clue she'd bet on a losing hand. That night, I quietly set things in motion. I changed every shared Wi-Fi password and updated our streaming logins. Small moves, but they re-established my control over our digital world without raising her suspicions. Then I booked a table for two at Bella Luna, James and Sarah's go-to dinner spot, for 8 p.m. on Friday. I sent Sarah a quick message. "Hey babe, planned a surprise date night for Friday? That new Italian place you've been dying to try?" She replied almost instantly. "Oh, sweetheart, I wish I could. Big presentation Saturday, need to prep." "No worries," I texted back. What she didn't know? I'd already accessed her secret Google Calendar, thanks to her using our joint email as the backup account. And there it was, plain as day. Dinner Wujay, Bella Luna, 8 p.m. Time to pull another thread. I reached out to Steve, who ran valet operations at the restaurant. "Need a reliable guy on duty this Friday night," I told him. "Couple's coming in. Black Audi A6. Here's the license plate." I gave him the details we'd gathered from our quiet surveillance. "Text me the second they pull in." "You got it," Steve said. "But what's the play?" "Just want to make sure a few very important guests get the welcome they deserve." Next came the transformation. I hit the gym hard, cleaned up with a tight fade, and updated my wardrobe. If Sarah noticed the shift, she said nothing. Too wrapped up in James and her never-ending work prep to notice much of anything else. I also set up a coffee meeting with Karen, Sarah's supposed friend from the Chicago branch. Turned out Karen had plenty to offer. "Just between us," she whispered, leaning close. "HR's been watching. A few complaints have piled up. Harassment, questionable behavior at company events. Leadership's compiling a case file." Exactly what I needed. All the pieces were now in place. It was just a matter of waiting for Friday night, when the first phase of the plan would kick off. I shot off a message to Tom, my media contact. "You still tight with that Business Journal reporter?" "Yeah, why?" "Tell her to clear a spot on the front page. There's a scandal brewing, corporate chaos with a messy side of workplace romance. She's going to want the exclusive." The trap was set. Sarah believed she was living out some forbidden love fantasy. What she didn't realize? This wasn't a love story. This was a chess match. And I was just about to call checkmate. Update incoming. Things were picking up speed, Reddit. Let me break down exactly what happened next. After confirming beyond a doubt that Sarah had been cheating, I knew it was time to make my move. I didn't say a word. I just packed up quietly and moved into the guest bedroom. Her response? Absolutely priceless. "What are you doing?" she demanded, watching as I slid my shirts onto hangers in the spare closet. "Just giving you some space," I replied smoothly. "Figured that's what you've been hinting at." She stood there frozen, totally thrown off. "This is ridiculous. You're being childish," she snapped. "Childish?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. That was rich, especially coming from someone like her. I simply shrugged and kept unpacking, calm as ever. The next move? That was up to her. The following morning, I kicked things off with a visit to my barber, Tony. "Tidy me up, make it look like I mean business," I told him. He went to work, sharp fade, fresh beard trim, the full glow-up. Next stop was Derek's high-end menswear store. As I stepped into a tailored black suit, Derek smirked. "Who died?" he quipped. "Not a funeral," I replied, smiling. "More like a resurrection." Then I swung by the detail shop to get my car fully polished. If I was starting over, I was doing it right. While the car was getting cleaned up, I made an important call. It was to Rachel, an attorney I knew from the gym who'd been casually flirting for a while. She picked up on the second ring. "Well, look who finally decided to call," she joked. "Remember when you said I owed you one for that laptop fix?" I said. "Time to cash in. Dinner tomorrow?" She chuckled, warm and amused. "About time. Where are we going?" "La Luna," I answered. "Word is it's full of surprises." Ooh, bold choice, she replied. Pick me up at 7. Back at the house, Sarah was pretending everything was still normal. But I could see her watching me, eyeing the haircut, the confidence, the upgraded look. And it was driving her crazy. Got plans tonight? She asked lightly as I adjusted my tie in the hallway mirror. Something like that, I said, spraying a little cologne, the kind I'd saved for something meaningful. With who? She pressed, the edge in her voice barely masked. With someone who tells the truth, I answered, grabbing my keys. Don't wait up. As I walked away, she called after me, her voice faint, almost shaky. I thought we were happy. I stopped for a beat, turned back, and met her eyes. So did I told her. Amazing what you start to see when the lies stop working. Driving off in my freshly detailed car, I glanced at the mirror and caught a glimpse of her expression. For the first time in all of this, she actually looked rattled. Good. Because the next night at La Luna, that was when she'd learn what it truly felt like to be blindsided. Let me tell you what happened there, because you won't believe it. Rachel looked stunning when I picked her up. That red dress? It was a statement all on its own, elegant and bold. We had everything planned to the letter. La Luna wasn't just some random restaurant. It was their regular spot. Same time, same table, every single week. Tonight we were taking that table for ourselves. Let's make this one count, Rachel whispered, sliding into their usual window seat with a wicked grin. This was her arena. As a lawyer, she lived for a good showdown. Only this time, the drama came with candles and Chianti. Right on schedule, 7:30 sharp, Sarah and James strolled in. I didn't need to turn my head. Their reflection in the glass told me everything. The moment Sarah spotted us, she went rigid. Her face turned pale like all the blood had drained from it. James, clueless as ever, nearly walked straight into her. Is something wrong, babe? I heard him ask, completely unaware he was just another pawn in a carefully crafted checkmate. The maitre d' arrived at their table with an apologetic tone. I'm terribly sorry, but your usual table is currently occupied. Would you like to wait, or perhaps... He didn't get to finish. Sarah was already striding across the restaurant floor, dragging James behind her like a confused child, being pulled by a furious mother. Her voice dropped to a hiss as she stopped in front of us. What are you doing here? I met her gaze with deliberate calm. Just enjoying a meal, I said with an easy smile. Rachel, let me introduce my wife, Sarah. Sarah, this is Rachel. She's a partner at Martinez and Goldman, specializes in divorce litigation. Rachel offered her hand with a cool, professional grin. Pleasure to meet you. And you must be James Anderson. I've certainly heard your name come up. James puffed up slightly, clearly pleased with the recognition, until Rachel continued without missing a beat. That SEC probe into your company's financials has been making quite the rounds among my clients. His confident expression faltered. What SEC probe? Rachel adopted a tone of feigned surprise. Oh dear, perhaps now's not the ideal time to get into all that. Especially with the journalist from the Business Journal over by the bar. She looks quite interested in your table. Sarah glanced toward the bar, her eyes darting nervously. I leaned back in my seat, casually sipping my wine. The calamari's excellent tonight, though I hear the crow's also worth trying. She grabbed my arm, her voice tight and urgent. We need to talk. I couldn't agree more, I replied smoothly. Maybe about the divorce papers that'll be served in the morning, or the workplace misconduct report someone submitted. Or should we start with those recent withdrawals from our joint account? James instinctively stepped away from her. Sarah, let's just go. Leaving already? I asked, raising my voice just enough to stop him in his tracks. But you haven't heard about the rest yet. He paused mid-stride. The rest? He asked cautiously. Oh, you know, Jessica in accounting, Michelle over in marketing. Each of them thought they were exclusive too. I turned my attention to Sarah. Let me guess. He told you there'd be a leadership position in his new venture? He really does stick to a script. Just then, movement caught my eye near the bar. 2 women were approaching, both walking with the intent of people who've had enough. James Anderson, one of them shouted. Ring any bells? Vegas, last year's conference. Sarah's face fell apart as the reality dawned. She hadn't been unique after all. And one last thing, I added, idly swirling my drink. You might want to check your phone. Those photos you sent James, the ones from our bedroom, they just made their way to his company's board. Total accident, of course. Sarah looked on the verge of collapse. James didn't even glance at her. He was already halfway to the exit, practically jogging. Best of luck, I called after him, raising my glass. Rachel, shall we get dessert? I've heard the humble pie here is divine. Sarah bolted from the restaurant, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I didn't feel victorious, just quietly resolved. The game was over. She never knew who the real opponent had been. The fallout from the La Luna ambush became the stuff of legend. Just past midnight, Sarah returned home. Her makeup was ruined, mascara streaked down her cheeks. I was in the living room with Rachel, calmly reviewing the final draft of the divorce agreement. When Sarah saw us, her expression shattered. In that moment, every dollar I'd paid Rachel felt completely justified. "How could you do this to me?" she cried. "How could you humiliate me like that?" I didn't even turn my head. "That's funny. I was wondering the same thing about those pictures you sent to James, the ones taken in our bed." Rachel cleared her throat, her tone brisk and clinical. "Mrs. Thompson, as your husband's attorney, I advise you to choose your words carefully. They may be submitted as evidence in the proceedings." Sarah dropped onto the couch, stunned into silence. "You're serious?" she whispered. "You're actually divorcing me?" "The documents are set to be officially delivered tomorrow," I said evenly. "But since you're already here, we can settle this now. Rachel?" Without hesitation, Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out the paperwork. "We've compiled substantial evidence: infidelity, misappropriation of shared funds, and efforts to conceal financial activity," she stated plainly. "You've been moving money around to rent a separate apartment, haven't you?" Sarah's head snapped up. "How could you possibly?" "Bank statements don't fabricate stories," I cut in. "Neither do hotel invoices, message logs, or those interesting emails about you planning to join James's so-called new venture." Rachel's voice turned glacial. "Speaking of which, there won't be any business launch for James. The SEC investigation is already uncovering serious irregularities." She let that settle for a moment before adding, "In fact, the board at his current firm just voted to terminate him. Apparently, his behavior toward married women and his misuse of corporate funds caught their attention." Sarah's phone buzzed. She checked it and all the color drained from her face. "He ended things," she murmured, "via text." "Charming," I remarked, tone dry. "Also, you might want to take a look at your email. HR circulated an interesting memo about workplace conduct and upcoming organizational changes." And just like that, the realization hit her, like a tidal wave. No job security, no lover, no marriage. Everything she'd been carefully keeping in the air, each deceit, every hidden truth, was crashing down around her. "I'll leave," she said softly, almost dazed. "No need," I said, rising from my chair. "I've already taken care of that. Rachel's firm works with a relocation service. The movers will be here first thing in the morning." "You're the one leaving?" Her eyes widened in panic. "What about the house? What about us?" "You should have thought about that before you started your second life with James," I replied coolly. "As for the house, it's legally mine. You didn't show up for the mortgage appointment, remember? Too busy with work." Rachel handed over a thick envelope. "Here's your copy of the divorce petition," she said calmly. "You'll need to submit your response within 30 days. Also, take note, there's a cease and desist attached. You're not allowed to contact my client's workplace or any of his family members." Tears spilled over Sarah's cheeks. "I didn't mean—" I stopped her cold. "Don't bother. You didn't just wake up in James's bed by mistake, over and over again. You chose this path. Now you live with what it cost." Just then, her phone lit up again. One look at the screen, and her face crumpled. "Let me guess," I said. "The Wives Club just got the memo?" She nodded silently, crushed. "Karma's a funny thing," I said, almost to myself. "Sometimes all it needs is a little nudge. In this case, a few emails to the right recipients." Rachel snapped her briefcase shut. "That's everything for now, Mrs. Thompson. Our office will reach out with the next steps." I grabbed my packed bags. "You can stay in the house until the legal proceedings wrap up," I told her. "Consider it a courtesy. one you never thought to offer me. As I walked toward the door, she called out behind me, "Did any of it mean anything? The 5 years we spent together?" I paused before crossing the threshold. "I was genuine," I said. "You were acting the whole time. The only difference now? I finally understand who I am." I stepped out. The door shut behind me with a clean, definitive click. Once in the car, I glanced at my phone. A message from Rachel lit up the screen. "Dinner tomorrow? This time no interruptions?" Sometimes the closing act of one story is just the opening line of something far better. A lot of you were curious about what happened to James. Well, buckle up, because things got interesting. Remember that SEC investigation? Turns out, James had been cooking the books for years, and lucky for the world, I knew exactly where to look. Thanks to my background in IT, I had no trouble locating his hidden files, and forwarding them anonymously, of course. The morning after our not-so-coincidental dinner at La Luna, James walked into his office to find the internal audit team waiting at his desk. They seized his laptop, disabled all of his system access, everything. And that was only the beginning. By midday, 3 women had filed harassment complaints. Apparently, Sarah wasn't the only one he'd been mentoring a little too closely. My anonymous suggestion to HR that they implement a secure and confidential way for employees to report misconduct? Let's just say, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. "You should have seen his expression," Tom messaged me from work. The guy was drenched in sweat. Security's escorting him out as we speak. Turns out those photos Sarah had sent James? He'd been collecting mementos from each of his affairs. When a batch of those, faces blurred but intentions clear, made its way to the board of directors, the game was over. The Business Journal was quick on the draw. "Senior executive fired amid scandal involving fraud and misconduct." Rachel scanned the article, clearly intrigued. "Multiple affairs, falsified records, a mountain of HR complaints," she murmured. "Your friend Tom gave some colorful commentary," she added. "Tom always has the inside scoop," I said with a grin. "And he's definitely earned his new position, James's old one." By that night, yet another twist made headlines. James had a wife. Yep, out of nowhere, and she'd been quietly gathering evidence for months. By sunrise, the whole thing collapsed. The SEC had officially launched an investigation. 3 other companies came forward with their own allegations of financial misconduct. Even the country club stripped James of his membership. A crushing blow for a man so obsessed with appearances. Then another message lit up my phone. "Guess who's loading up a U-Haul?" my neighbor texted. James's spotless white BMW nowhere in sight. Apparently, it had been leased through the company. Awkward. Sarah kept trying to reach him, but he ghosted her. His final message was brutal. "You're complicit. Don't contact me again." That night, over dinner, Rachel glanced up from her plate. "Did you orchestrate all this?" she asked. "Me?" I replied innocently. "All I did was share the truth with the right people. The rest, that's just karma doing her job." As for that anonymous site listing every one of James's misdeeds, the one bound to pop up on any background check, I gave a nonchalant shrug. The internet moves in mysterious ways. Final tally: possible criminal charges, marriage destroyed, career vaporized, and a permanent digital footprint. Tom joked, "Remind me never to end up on your bad side." "I usually take the high road," I said. "But every now and then I help build a few speed bumps along the way." A few of you asked how the divorce concluded and what followed. Here's the rundown. With Rachel at the helm, the legal side moved fast. Sarah didn't contest a thing. She had a disaster of her own unfolding. HR had begun a formal inquiry into her relationship with James. She was given 2 options: resign or be fired. She chose to quit. But that didn't stop the fallout. Corporate gossip travels fast, and her name was radioactive. Last I heard, she'd packed her things and moved back to her hometown in Ohio. Sometimes it takes hitting bottom to finally look up. As for me, I hit the reset button. The house sold quickly. Rachel had a fantastic realtor in her network. Definitely not Emily. I moved into a modern apartment downtown, closer to work and even closer to my new gym. "You're different," Tom said during our weekly basketball match. "More confident or something?" "Starting over'll do that," I said, nailing a clean 3-pointer. The divorce became final on a Tuesday. Rachel handed me the signed documents. a subtle smile playing on her lips. Less professional, more personal. "So, how does it feel being single again?" she asked. "Like I can finally breathe," I told her. "And I had a killer attorney who made the whole thing painless." Her cheeks flushed slightly. "Careful. Dating your divorce lawyer is a bit of a cliché." "Good thing you're not my lawyer anymore," I said, holding up the signed papers. Sarah did try to reach out one last time, through a mutual acquaintance. She wanted to talk, explain, maybe apologize. I sent back a single message. "There's nothing left to explain. Best of luck in Ohio." Funny thing about betrayal, it cuts deep at first. But eventually the sting fades. And what's left? Freedom. Freedom from deceit. Freedom from doubt. Freedom from someone who never truly saw your value. "You never did tell me." While we were having dinner that night, Rachel leaned in and asked, "So what was the first thing that made you suspect Sarah?" I paused, thinking it over. "It wasn't just one thing," I said finally. "There were subtle differences. The rituals she stopped including me in. How her face would light up when she looked at her phone, but never when she looked at me. Small things that built up over time." I gave a slow nod. "The warning signs were always there," I added. "We just avoid them when we're not ready to face the truth." I reached across the table and gently took Rachel's hand, offering her a quiet smile. Now I recognize the patterns, and I know what I'll never accept again. Honesty, mutual respect, and someone who's actually excited to be in this with me. Right then, the waiter arrived with our dessert, ironically at the same restaurant where Sarah's betrayal had first come to light. "Life's got a twisted sense of humor," I remarked. Rachel lifted her glass toward mine. "Here's to new beginnings." I clinked my glass against hers. "And to karma. May she never miss." For those of you curious about how things ended up for Sarah and James, here's what I've pieced together through mutual friends and the occasional social media slip-up. James' fall from grace was nothing short of theatrical. The SEC uncovered that he was running shady operations across not one, but 3 separate companies. His wife divorced him, taking everything that wasn't nailed down. The rest vanished into legal fees. Last I heard, he was scraping by as a junior sales rep somewhere in New Jersey. Quite the downgrade from his old executive VP title. And even though his LinkedIn still says he's a strategic consultant, no one's buying into the charade anymore. Sarah didn't exactly land on her feet either. She moved back to Ohio and ended up living with her parents, about as hard a reset as you can get. She tried to spin the whole mess into a redemption arc online, calling it a growth experience. But that crashed and burned when one of James's other exes chimed in publicly. Thanks to Tom, I still get regular updates from the office grapevine. Remember that promotion Sarah had her eye on? It went to Lisa from accounting, the same Lisa who helped unravel James's creative bookkeeping. Turns out karma doesn't just return. Sometimes she brings documentation. Sarah did try to get back into the dating scene, but her reputation preceded her. Once your name becomes shorthand for office drama, it tends to stick. Eventually, she had to take down most of her online profiles when people kept resurfacing the Business Journal article. And then, one morning over coffee, Rachel casually dropped this. "Guess who applied to my firm?" I looked at her, eyes wide. "You've got to be kidding." "Sarah," Rachel said, grinning. "She submitted an application for a legal secretary position." "You can't be serious." "Wish I were," she said. Unsurprisingly, Sarah's resume made no mention of her most recent job. Clearly, the universe has a taste for irony. As for James, he tried to make a comeback with a business consulting website. That didn't last long. His former employer slapped him with a cease and desist for using company materials. Not exactly a stroke of genius. Last I heard, Sarah found work at a small marketing firm handling minor accounts. Her dating profile now claims she's learned her lesson and is looking for something real. The irony practically writes itself. It should be on a tasting menu. Tom summed it up perfectly. You know what's even better than payback? Watching karma take care of business while you move forward. And honestly, looking back now, do I feel sorry for them? Maybe in a distant, faint way. But not enough to excuse what they did. Like Rachel always says, every cautionary tale needs its leading players. And they wore those roles perfectly. Final update. It's been a full year since everything fell apart. Time to close this chapter with one last post. Rachel and I got married last month. It was a small, meaningful ceremony with just the people who mattered most. Tom stood beside me as my best man. Appropriate, considering his early text was the spark that lit the fuse. His toast, of course, couldn't resist a callback. Funny how some of life's best moments begin with someone else's worst mistakes. We held the wedding at La Luna. Yes, that La Luna. The owner even gave us a great deal, saying he remembered the infamous night when everything with Sarah blew up. We sat at the same table where my world had once crumbled. Talk about poetic justice. A lot has changed. I stuck to the gym routine. Turns out revenge is a fantastic motivator. My IT consulting firm is thriving. Nothing sharpens your vision quite like watching your life turn inside out. Oh, and when Sarah heard about the wedding, she sent us a card to congratulate us. I returned it without even breaking the seal. Some chapters are better left unread. Tom eventually stepped into James's position and restructured the department from top to bottom. Office romances? Not happening on my watch, he likes to quip now. Our ordeal even made its way into the company's HR training as a cautionary tale. Names changed naturally. Meanwhile, Rachel's legal practice has shifted focus toward representing those burned by betrayal. You basically pioneered a whole new legal category, she told me once. People want someone who gets both the courtroom fallout and the emotional wreckage. Over time, I came to realize that Sarah's betrayal wasn't a collapse, it was a recalibration. It forced me to learn how to draw firm lines, to stop compromising my dignity, and most of all, to recognize the difference between devotion and self-erasure. Not long ago, while unpacking boxes, I came across our old wedding album. Those pictures used to feel like wounds. Now, just reminders, markers of the hard-earned clarity that followed. Rachel suggested donating it. Goodwill might have a use for the frame, she said with a sly smile. To everyone who stuck with this story, who offered words of support, shared advice, or just listened, thank you. You helped more than you probably know. And to the Redditor who dropped the tip about the SEC whistleblower program, you, my friend, changed the game entirely. You can't always stop betrayal before it hits, but you can decide how you respond. I chose composure, a tailored jacket, and just the right amount of poetic revenge to make the final chapter sing. Rachel peeked over my shoulder just now and laughed. You left out the best part, she said. Tell them about the house. Yes, nearly forgot. We bought one. Not just any house either. It's right next door to Sarah's so-called forever home, the one she used to fantasize about, the one James could never afford. Now, each morning I sip coffee on our back deck and smile, because sometimes karma needs a nudge. But most days, she hits her target just fine all on her own.